We have the wonderful Joy Reid. I'm not going to steal from David Letterman, but someone who doesn't need any introduction at all, I think. Um, I just have, I'm thankful for you being here and being on Substack too. That's pretty cool, especially.
I'm enjoying it. I love myself some Substack. My friend Jackie Reed, my source sister cousin friend, my partner in Read This Read That. She calls me her Substack fairy because I'm getting all the peeps to sign up for Substack. So
What
I'm a
is it like
recruiter.
being what's it like being on your own now?
You know what? Unexpectedly hectic. I thought I was gonna like. It's funny because when I left, Lawrence O'Donnell was like, he's like, "This is you. You need to take like a month off," and I was like, "That's such a good idea." And now I'm like, "Wait, what happened to my month off? Like, what? Where's my?" He was like, "Go on the best vacation." I was like, "That's so smart, Lawrence." And now I'm like, I'm working every day, 12 hours a day.
Right.
Like I feel like I'm either doing a live or writing my Substack daily or at an event or I'm hosting a panel or doing a thing like every day. Like I'm exhausted. Like I need a vacation.
Welcome to the
Welcome
wonderful
to freedom.
world. It is quite interesting, to be in this now. We go way back, but like, there's a are are you surprised that we're here again? You know what I mean, with Trump and everything. Is that surprising to you?
See, and this is one of the ways in which being having been in mainstream media was kind of a handicap because I was actually genuinely surprised. Like I actually thought this was my own delusion because I was in the sort of MSNBC fan universe, and in that universe, Kamala Harris was going to win because
Yeah.
I was so certain that despite the kind of anvil that Joe Biden represented around Kamala Harris's ankles, which I think he did, and people's real rejection of Bidenomics and people's real feeling that they wanted dramatic change. I number one got caught up in the joy of the 100-day campaign. I thought it was I thought she was brilliant. I thought she came into her own. I've been covering Kamala Harris for a long time, and I thought she was the best Kamala Harris. Like she actually came out swinging. She did all the things, and I thought that not even just that, but Project 2025 would scare people so much that even if they had this weird Trump amnesia about how bad he was at being president, and he really was bad at being president. I mean, he left the economy in absolute shambles with 500,000 dead bodies on the ground from
Right.
COVID. But I thought even if you just put that aside and people were like, yeah, but I got a stimmy, even with that, I thought Project 2025 would scare the shit out of people. And they would be like, oh, I'm not doing that. I may like Trump, but I don't want that. The idea of Christian nationalism would be so destabilizing that they'd say, oh, I don't want that. But I think what I realized is the people who watch MSNBC and who I run into in the airports, and some of you hi that I'm seeing on in the Substack that are saying hi, that I run into in the world that are like MSNBC world people, they were always going to vote for Trump. I mean, for Kamala. Sorry, for Kamala.
Mhm.
They were going to vote for whoever the Democrat was. They would have voted for Biden, right? And so we were in that universe. And while I do check out enough Fox and I try to read Breitbart and I try to read some right wing stuff, I thought, well, there's no way people are going to go back down this road. Business people are going to say, I don't want that chaos. I had Republicans telling me there's no way that, sane Republicans are going to go back down this road. So I was surprised when he won. And then the breadth of the victory was very weird to me. Like, you mean she didn't win any swing states? Like, that's weird, And just the fact that millions of people just opted out of. I mean, I know we keep saying this is the most important election. This actually was. Like, this was the difference between we're a democracy and we're heading toward a fascist autocracy, kleptocracy, nightmare, whatever. So I'm thinking, yeah, that there's enough. And it just turned out I was wrong. And so now that I understand that there are tens of millions of Americans who want this hell. They actually want this. This is what they want boot on face. Boot on face is their choice. And they have chosen this. Their heart's desire was this. And so now I have to readjust my understanding and my thinking about this country. Because if this is what y'all wanted, well, this is what you're getting. He's going to screw your 401ks, make you poor, make it hard for you to afford your lives. And now, whether you're in the cult or not in the cult, you're in the cooker. We're cooking with all. We're all in the cooker because y'all wanted. This was your heart's desire, America. And I
Hmm.
will say not all of America because it wasn't Black America,
Right.
it wasn't Asian America, it wasn't. I mean, Brown America. The men, 55% of Latino men, sure, but Latinas went the other way and canceled the men out. White America, hello. This was your heart's desire.
Right.
You asked
And
for it, you got it.
when Trumpers run around, speaking of race, when Trumpers run around banning DEI programs, they falsely claim they're actually now making things more equal. What are they actually trying to accomplish? I mean, I have a lot of assumptions about it, but what do you think? What are they actually doing here?
It's when you commit a crime, one of the things you got to do is you got to do a cover up, right? This is the cover up, right? And
Right.
so there is, if you go and read Project 2025, they're very clear. And white Christian nationalists have been consistent over the course of their entire sojourn in America that they want a sanitized, fact free version of American history that says that nobody white ever did anything bad to anybody black, brown, indigenous. It just never happened. In their narrative, there was this glorious religious freedom that took place, and the indigenous people happily handed over their land along with an ear of corn. And it was all peaceful. And then we had Thanksgiving, and the blacks just had a job. They had a job and 3 square meals of scrapple a day, and they were singing in the fields, and they were perfectly fine. And then along came the mean old North, and they messed up the poor little South and beat them down. But the resilient South rose back up again. And this is what they want, and they can't live without that narrative. They need it bad, and so they keep doing it. They do it every time. They did it. The daughters of the Confederacy did it, and now these people are doing. They just all do. It's so consistent. We're not. The black folks are not surprised. We're like this. What they do it every time. The white Christian nationalists always have to remake the history to their liking because they just can't handle the truth. They can't
Yeah.
handle it. Makes them sad. So they're like, we're gonna fix it and we're gonna make it. And then they also have this weird sense of victimization. I've never seen victors, who control 95% of the C-suites, 99% of the investment money goes to them. They own all the best land, all the best houses, live in all the best neighborhoods, have all the money, everything they want. And they're just like, everyone's mean to me. They feel like victims all the time. They're just whiny, 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 just bitching every minute. Oh, everyone's mean, and my son didn't get into Yale because a black person took their spot. No, maybe your son just really wasn't qualified to get into Yale.
Right.
Mommy Chula, maybe your kid just ain't that smart.
Right.
But they can't
Right.
accept that, a black took it, they're just
Yeah.
whiny, just
I'll
whining.
get him in with a badminton scholarship. No, it's
Right. It's like, come
like,
on. It's like, give me a break.
why are you gonna
All
try
they
and
had to do,
cheat?
and
It
also,
didn't.
why didn't you just buy them into Yale like Trump's dad did?
Right.
Maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's your fault, rich white mama. Why maybe you should have just bought it like Trump's dad did.
It must have been the morning after inauguration. I don't remember the exact timeline, so I apologize. I know someone's going to fact check me on this. Um, I was sitting at the huge glass desk at the DC studio next to you, and we both saw. I think it was the first time you saw it. I'm not sure, but it was Kellyanne Conway had gone on and talked about alternative facts.
Facts.
Um, that kind of started everything. Looking back, I looked at just my comments from that and saying, she resign, she needs to resign, and I said something along the lines of like, in politics, lies kill people because those lies will spread like it, and that's what it did. Obviously, with
Yeah.
COVID, with other things, they used those lies, weaponized them against people. Like what? The question is a little bit different though. Like, what gave you the courage to do what everyone else was refusing to do, which is let others call a lie, and yourself call a lie. Have guests on that would call a lie a lie. You know what I mean? Like people weren't doing it, and it was provocative at the time, and extremely popular, obviously. But it was. It really was. I mean, according to the threats that I would get,
Same.
it was really a big deal to say things like this and impeachment and all these other things. Like uh, he was in violation of the Constitution, so of course, yes, he should be impeached. It was so simple to me and you and other people that came on your show. Just Like, why? What is it that? But I mean, like, you took a brunt of that because you're out in front. It's your name on it. You know what I mean? Like, what made you have the courage to kind of do that? Because people just weren't willing to do it because it would risk their jobs, their future,
Yeah.
and everything. And you risked everything for that.
Because what? Because otherwise, what's the point of having the platform? You know,
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying.
I had this
Yes.
conversation with Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he said something to me that's so profound that I just keep repeating it and taking and giving him credit for it. Is that what is the point of having a platform if you're not willing to use it?
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you know, I'm a pretty damn good writer. I'm always going to work. And I've always told my students back when I used to teach, I said the one skill you need to always hone is your ability to write. Because if you can write, you will never be unemployed. You can be fun employed. Like I'm fun employed right now, as my daughter calls it. I'm fun employed. But I'm a writer, so I'm always gonna be able to write. I'll be all right. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'll teach somewhere. I'll be a writer. I'll be fine. Like I'm not worried about myself being able to make a living because you know I'm a Harvard educated good writer. You know I'm pretty privileged when it comes to being a black woman in America, first generation daughter of immigrants. I've done pretty well. You know, and so I am not. And this is my thing about politicians. They're so scared of losing that gig and that 174K that they won't do anything. Well, then how come Cori Bush wasn't, who used to live in her car?
Right.
Cori Bush used to be homeless, but she wasn't so scared of losing that 174K, and she needed the 174K a lot
Yep.
more than some of these rich, you know, Ivy League educated lawyers who serve in Congress, but they're so scared. Joni Ernst. Oh God, Joni Ernst, you're like a boss ass military veteran. You could be all kinds of things.
Hmm.
But you're so scared of being primaried out of that job that you're willing to let Pete Hegseth, the
Right.
weekend guy from Fox, become defense secretary, and you know that shit is wrong. Come on,
Hmm.
Joni. You know you're qualified to be defense secretary, right? And you know a whole lot of other people who are qualified to be defense, but you're so scared, Joni. And that goes for all these. You're so scared, you know, Lindsey Graham, who's a JAG in the military. You serve for
Hmm.
all these centers. You could easily get a job. You'd be on the board of whatever South Carolina college you want. You'd be fine. But you're so chicken shit to get kicked out of that one job that
Right.
y'all are willing to let that guy be defense secretary, the secretary of the whole defense department. You didn't have the balls to say no to that. So that's what I'm saying. What's the point of being a United States senator if you're so scared of a primary that you can't do the right thing that you know is the right thing? Mitch McConnell knows good and well that Donald Trump should have not just been impeached but convicted. And had they convicted him, he would not have been able to run for president again. But they didn't have the balls, they didn't have the courage of their actual convictions because they talk to us behind the scenes. We get from these people, we get from sources behind the scenes how much they hate Donald Trump.
Hmm.
They know he's crazy. They know he's unhinged. They don't care. They're so chicken. They're chicken. And so to me, I'm like, have a little courage. I'm a girl and I have more courage than these male senators. I'm just like, all I'm doing is just like, what's the worst that can happen to you? You know, you get fired on your day off, like I did.
The worst. I mean, term limits, it's maybe 6 years as a rep and one term, a 6 year term
Listen,
as a senator, and then combine that with a 1 month um, campaigning limit where you could only accept something like individual contributions of $25 and that's it, and you can maybe throw in a few grand of your own money, limited
and
to
don't they
that.
all become lobbyists and shit? Like
They
they
do.
make so much money after they leave the Senate.
They
They
don't
have
even do
unlimited money.
anything. These like there are some good lobbyists out there that lobby for education and funding and things like that. But then a lot of those lobbyists, they make money through they don't make millions of dollars, right? They're making like 84 or 100, which is good money, but in DC it's still it could be
They
a
want
struggle.
more.
Right. And so, I mean, a lot of these, I would hate meeting with lobbyists because it always was weird because, they know, like, it's kind of, you walk around your head, like what senators and reps you're representing. And that's what they want to talk to you. They want to talk about those issues, but they really don't care. They just want their bottom line. So I would
Mhm.
skip it, and I'd be like, "So what do you want? What do you do?" And it started to translate into, actual friendships and them telling me what really is going on. And thankfully, they're still around, even some that are involved with the Trump administration. It's nice having people like that. One of the things people do not know, right? I know Maddow did a lot of coverage. Credit to her. Awesome.
She's great.
Yeah, the person who stepped out, and this is not for DOJ noticing, but like person who stepped out on Trump's international business dealings and Trump's international mob ties and everything like that, was you. And I don't know if people are aware of that. Not to just give you credit for that. You had, when I first went on your show in 2016, it was talking about, we were the opposition to WikiLeaks because we
Hmm.
were taking legal documents that we had acquired through different sources, Wayne Barrett and other legendary journalists who had these troves of files on Trump for years. And so, we started uncovering the mob ties, and then 100 different countries he had done business in, and one of them included Russia. And then he started to get a little angry about Russia. And I'm like, okay, well, let's dive into his Russian business ties. Then you have 30 years, you have hundreds of millions of dollars of money that came into the United States through Russians, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, there were other networks where I was going to go on, and it was like sitting there waiting to go on, right? And it cut it, right? They're like, no, no, no. And it was disheartening because people again were refusing to just air the basic truth. It wasn't
Yeah.
about collusion at this point. It wasn't about them working with the campaign in Russia like they did, but it was just about he's got business ties with, one of our biggest adversaries, and he's also got him in China. So like, isn't this a problem with everybody? Like that literally was what we were covering. Um, was there something that told you that was like, there's huge scandals here? Because I truly believe there's no Mueller, there's no impeachments, there's none of that if you're not starting to spotlight that as you did in 2016, and then that snowballed from there. But like, was there something that told you like this dude is scandalous?
Oh, yeah, being from New York. Like, I mean, literally, you could have just walked up to almost any New Yorker that was over 30 or over 40 at that point, and they would have told you, oh, yeah, he's a scammer. Like, I even just in the course of just being at work, I knew people who were crew people who had relatives whose businesses had been scammed by Trump, where they had their small their cousins small chandelier company had put up chandeliers at one of Trump's buildings and never gotten paid. We knew
Mhm.
about the ice rink, right? To take my kids to skate, where Trump renovated the ice rink and he got a big subcontract, and his subs never got paid. Go all throughout New York. This is why he did so poorly in Manhattan.
Mhm.
Remember, he lost 80% of the vote in Manhattan. That's his home turf, right? Where he always wanted to
Right.
be. He didn't even win Queens, which is where he's from, because
Right.
people in New York knew he was a scammer. He destroyed Coney Island. His dad wrecked Coney Island, like bankrupted it. These people, the Trumps, have been like a virus in the state of New York and the city of New York. So every New Yorker knew it. And then when I was born in Brooklyn, but I was raised in Denver. When I moved back to New York, it was around the time that he was doing the Central Park Five. And I was a teenager and they were teenagers, and we're about the same age. So my first experience with Trump was him trying to get those five black and brown kids murdered. He
Yeah.
wanted them dead, and they were my
Right.
age. It was hell being in New York as a teenager at that time because we were afraid to walk in the park. They were calling us wilding. They were basically saying we were animals. The police were extra, extra. Even before Giuliani time, they were super extra.
Mhm.
People were being chased into the street by white mobs and killed in Howard Beach and other parts of Queens. Like, it was crazy in New York at that time. This is when I first, got up on Sharpton, because I was like, Sharpton was the only thing standing between us and hell. That's how I got to be so, such an admirer of his. Never thought I'd actually meet him. The reality is that we as New Yorkers knew what we were dealing with. I never even watched The Apprentice because he was such a monster to me. He was so beastly to me. And I saw him as such a racist that I refused to watch the show and was shocked that anybody black would go on the show because I knew
Mhm.
what we were dealing with. But a lot of people didn't know. people who were outside of New York City really didn't know what they were dealing with. And you know, Michael Cohen is very honest about this. Michael Cohen was kind of his go-between that would kind of be the buffer between him and like the black community. So you know, he would sometimes get like an NAACP thing award, like, and Michael Cohen was the guy who was brokering a lot of that stuff. So
Hmm.
he kind of had this weird thing, like rich black people he was cool with. Black celebrities could come to Mar-a-Lago and hang out there and be members, and he would let black and Jewish rich people come to Mar-a-Lago, which made him kind of like a Robin Hood figure in South Florida, on the Florida side. So if
Hmm.
you were in Florida, you thought of him as like a Robin Hood, because all these other like Brahmin golf clubs and stuff wouldn't let blacks and Jews join. He would. And so he was kind of seen as like heroic. And then on top of that, you had the hip hop factor. His name became just a substitute for bling, for wealth. And so he was getting quoted by Nas and getting quoted in hip hop. So hip hop fans that are especially Gen X, my age, Gen X fans, liked Trump. You know, he's in Home Alone too. Like, he's popping up everywhere and he's like a cultural star. So he was a celebrity, but only people who actually experienced him as New Yorkers really understood he was also a scammer. On top of that, if you actually then, when I started doing the show, so when he started running, I had David K. Johnston on a lot, and I had Tim O'Brien on a lot, and I had you on a lot. And we were unpacking the actual financial history of this man.
Right.
Because it turned out that his quote unquote wealth, it took only a little bit of layers, a little bit of digging to find out that it was all fraud. And
Right.
that the apprentice made him look a lot richer than he really was.
Hmm.
But in fact, a lot of his businesses had failed casinos in Atlantic City. Kind of hard to fail at casinos in Atlantic City. That's what they do. You know, just failed businesses, scammy businesses, and you started to get let. So David K. Johnson is the one who hit me to the mob ties piece.
Right.
So as I'm getting all these stories, then you get the parts about Russia and this weird thing about, you know, him and Ivana, his first wife, and these weird relationships. He was from Czechoslovakia. There was all this sort of ties to, you know, did the Kremlin try to recruit him? So there were all of these layers of reasons that were red flags of why this man should not be president. And
Right.
everyone understood he shouldn't be president. But America doesn't love women so much. So they were just like, we'd rather have a grifter and a criminal than because he's a celebrity than a woman, I guess. You know, I mean, this is America.
Yeah, and it was a fun fact. One of the starting points to the beef between him and Obama. It was I think Nene Leakes was on the series of The Apprentice at that time, and he's doing his firing scene, and then all of a sudden, special report NBC, and it was the announcement of killing Bin Laden had interrupted The Apprentice and the final 15 minutes, and I don't believe Obama went on for another 15 minutes, but network did cut into the show, and that really infuriated Trump. Um, I
As
forget
did Obama, clowning him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Because when I tell
that
you Obama was our
that was
funniest
a hard
president,
one.
baby, Obama, first of all, Obama is very funny because
Yeah,
what makes
yeah.
Obama funny is his comedic timing and the fact that he's
Mhm.
tickled by his own jokes. So he'll tell a joke and then he laughs. And then you have to laugh because he's like so tickled, but he's so amused by himself that you're like, okay, now I got with you, my brother, because you laughing so much. You're like, he does that, and then I'm gonna tell a joke, and then I go, and you're like, oh my god, you're so funny. But one of the best jokes he did is when he got at Trump with Trump in the room, and Trump hates to be humiliated. If you know, if you've talked to Mary Trump and Fred Trump Jr., they'll tell you he hates to be humiliated and he hates to be embarrassed, and he does not laugh. He's not a person that ever laughs. Have you ever seen him laugh? He doesn't. He doesn't have a
Yeah,
sense of humor. And
right.
so when he got by Obama, and then it turned out that not only was Obama getting at him, he was also getting Bin Laden. Done. A black man showing him up like that? Not good. No bueno for him.
Yeah, there was one time I had run into Denzel Washington and Obama at an event.
Humble
Um,
brag.
This
That's good.
even more humble brag. There's a picture, iconic picture of Denzel Washington and Obama on inauguration night, and I worked for his inaugural committee in '09. And one of my jobs was being a liaison for Quincy Lucas and Lily Ledbetter and
Wow.
friends that also were leaders
Awesome.
on the campaign trail. So somehow we finagled on getting them on stage to do their first dance, like right after the first dance with Michelle and Brock, to do Signed, Sealed, Delivered with like Stevie
Wow.
Wonder singing, first of all, Alicia Keys, Garth Brooks, Sting, Faith, there were so, oh my gosh, there were so many
Oh,
people
wow.
there.
That's
Beyonce
awesome.
was there. Anyway, so there's this iconic picture of them laughing with one another, and my I had just been sick, got out of the hospital like 2 months before then, for food poisoning. Anyways, and there's a side view of my moon face from prednisone in between them. And so I get to say anytime I run into either of them, I like, what's it like having a picture of me in your house? And it's my dad joke. But
I love it.
it is a fascinating life to just have all these different. I feel like Forrest Gump sometimes, being in the room when I should not be. Two more questions for you. You've given me more time than I had asked for, so I appreciate that. But this one's I was super curious about. A lot of our readers are curious about as well. Why don't you think, with situations like the Associated Press being banned from the White House, that news agencies just don't band together and say, if you ban one of us, you ban all of us? Sort of like you can't take on the lion if you just want a hyena or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
not calling Trump a lion per se, but like you need to all band together and you be powerful enough to do that. Like they just kind of sit there and like, oh, well, they're in trouble. Kind of like, I'm gonna stay away from that, instead of banding together and doing something. Maybe not Fox joins in, but
Yeah.
everybody else could, and just be like, all right, we're not going to come either. You
Somebody
know.
called Stephen Miller Nosferatu, and now I'm done. I'm done. Somebody in the comments just called him no. Whoever called him Nosferatu, I need to follow you on this here. That was hysterically funny. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the comments, and they said he's Nosferatu.
it's
That's funny.
it's
You guys thought that was
fitting.
funny. That
It's
was
fitting.
Obama funny. I mean, why don't the law firms? Why are these
Right.
law firms letting him extort them? Why didn't all these powerful law firms, these mighty law firms, all just say, when Paul Weiss gave in, instead of them giving in, they should have all said, no, you can't do that. We know we're lawyers. We're literally lawyers. You cannot write bills of attainder against us and say you're going to make us give you money and give you pro bono legal services. F you.
Right.
Why don't the corporations? Why are they saying, oh, wait, you want us to, let me see, torch our future earnings by decrying DEI in a country where people under 20 years old are already majority non white? So our
Right.
future market is already multiracial, and you want us to torch ourselves with the white mama who got a black daughter by saying your black daughter doesn't matter to me and I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to sell her a Barbie because she's brown and the mama's white and the daddy Asian and the kid is brown. And that's the future of America. It can't be stopped. Those people exist. They're already here.
Hmm.
And so now it's like everybody, instead of them all saying DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's our business model. We need it because the old white generations of the silent generation are not our future market. Boomers are not our future market. It's young people, and young people are multiracial. So we got to keep DEI. And also, DEI is veterans. You want us to like torch veterans and disabled people and gay people? You want us to attack why would we do that? So if all the corporations that said, yeah, buddy, you can't control us. The government does not control what corporations do. They all go, okay, they all run to the hills. Why don't any of these people stand up to him? Why didn't the Republicans stand up to him? The Republicans had the votes. They had the meats. The commercial, we have the meats. They had the votes. They could have literally prevented him from ever running for president again by convicting him. They had two shots at it. Two
Yeah.
shots, two
Yeah.
impeachments. He got impeached twice. And they were like, you know what? Mitch McConnell whipped against conviction.
Right.
Then they were like, don't worry, he'll get prosecuted. No, he didn't. Because Merrick Garland's week behind was like, you know what? Maybe I'll start with the plumber that broke into the Capitol. And then I'll work my way up to the hairdresser. And then after the hairdresser, maybe I'll get to a few of the cops and a few of the military people. But I'm going to wait 3 years to get to the boss. So everyone stood down. It's not just the media. The media is following suit to the way every other sector of our society has taken the knee to this man. No, who is standing up to him other than the federal workers themselves who are out there protesting and risking their getting fired by being visibly on camera, right? Those are the people who are fighting. The churches, like the Target Fast protest, people like Reverend Jamal Bryant and all those pastors who are like, okay, Target, you don't want us, we don't want you. We're gonna mess your bottom line up. Like it's individual Americans who are fighting. The media is just like all the other. There's corporations. None of these corporations have stood up. It's sad.
I, I agree. And, speaking of sad and turning sad upside down, every interview I ever do or every conversation I ever have, I always end it on a note where, we ask for words of inspiration. So if somebody's, not feeling it, it's been a rough week, it's been a rough
Yes.
month, it's been a rough 10 years, crunched into a few months here.
Yes.
If they're not, if they're struggling or whatnot, they need to hear from you. What would you say to them?
What I would say, and not only because it's my name, is that you give yourself some moments of joy, not me, but joy, the small J joy. Because here's the thing: autocracy is exhausting, and it's designed to exhaust you. But if you Google Alexei Navalny, how did he always look? He was always smiling. He was always laughing. He was always joking. He was always around people like that. The singing group. What was it? Oh my God, their name. I'm gonna forget their name. But he had like young people around him. He had joy around him. Even at his worst moments, you gotta Alexei Navalny this out, right? And he gave his life for his country, for Russia. But even in the midst of struggle, if you go back and you look at Dr. King, if you talk to people who knew Dr. King, he was like hilarious. He would find moments to have joy. He would laugh and joke, and people who are in this fight, when you meet them, they're always surprisingly joyful. Because the worst enemy of autocracy is joy. The worst enemy of kleptocracy and oligarchy, what they really want is for us to be miserable. Pussy Riot, that's the name of them. Sorry, Pussy Riot, that was the name. And I interviewed one of them on AM Joy. Brilliant young women, but taking huge risks, but joyfully. So I would say, do what you can. Don't feel like you have to be out there in the front of a march. You have to be leading a movement yourself. Do little things to fight them. Do little things to fight them. Sometimes the little thing is, I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be publicly joyful. You're not going to make me sad and miserable. Sometimes your little thing will be, I'm not going to buy a Tesla. I'm going to sell my Tesla. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to not contribute to his bottom line. I'm going to do my little thing. If there's a school board member who's MAGA, I'm going to vote against them or I'm going to run against them. Do something small. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Do something. Say something. Tell somebody that this is wrong. If you have a MAGA person in your house, try to reason with them if you can. Call your senator, somebody's saying. You can do little stuff, just little stuff. And don't feel like it's on you personally to reverse this, because no one can do it by themselves. And then the second thing I would say is find community. This is a community, right? This that you guys with Scott, this is your community. That is so important. You need community in order to get through this. These are long haul fights. Countries stay in autocracies for years. We don't know. I don't believe Trump is ever intending to leave. So the reality is we have to dig in for a potentially long haul to get this reversed. But do something small. Do something that you can do. Do something accessible to you. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and be joyful. Have some joy. Watch Later Daters. Michelle Obama gave it to us. It's a gift for us. Just watch it. It's fun. Or watch The Residents. I'm watching The Residents right now. It's so much fun. Watch The Resident. I know it's about the White House. It might freak you out, but it's a lot of fun. Uzo Aduba is brilliant in it.
It's a great show, and I never saw bird watching in that light before, but
I
it
want to bird watch now.
it does makes a lot of sense with such a, the most brilliant investigator in the world.
Yes.
And so it is a must watch, and it's a fun watch. It's not extremely violent. Ken Marino's in it, and it's got a great cast. Great
It's great.
cast.
Somebody
Real,
from Canada is in the chat. I love Canada. I'm a big Canada fan. I got to get. I'm a huge Canada fan. Go Canada, Greenland, Panama, all y'all that are standing up. And by the way, I'm semi obsessed with the president of Mexico, Scheinbaum. That's
oh
my
yeah.
chick, man. That's my chick. She is telling Trump, no, 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 no.
If you haven't yet, Joy Reid, subscribe to her Substack, become a paid subscriber if you can. There will be a link in the episode's notes. If you miss any of this episode, we will release it later this afternoon in full, and so you'll have access to it then. We'll also have links to her books, best-selling author Joy Reid. Uh, I'm honored to know you. I'm a lucky guy, and
Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad we could do this, and I'm glad you're on your own now because eventually, maybe someday, we can all talk you into running for office. All right, so well,
At least I know I would have great staff. I know people who know how to win.
there you go. Boom.
Boom.
You get those endorsements quick. But yeah, no, I appreciate you and thank you for all you do and thanks for standing up for our country and not just now, but then and every day since he's existed in
Right back at you, my
politics.
friend. Thank you
So,
for having me.
all right, onward, y'all, and thank you again, Joy. I'll see you soon.
All right. See ya. Bye, guys.